Hello, welcome to FPL The Onion episode 11. It's the two of us as kind of usual tonight. I am Ash and I'm joined by Nick, whose camera we've turned off for a few performance reasons. So we've just got what we call in this Nick, the Tinker Nick picture.
Yeah, the inquisitive Nick, the ponderous Nick, something. But I quite like it because at the moment I've been off work this week, so I haven't shaved and I haven't really done my hair either. So I quite like that picture because the hair's done, clean shaven, ready to go. But yeah, sorry, we're still having internet issues. So
yeah, we were just chatting beforehand.
no picture, no video.
Darren Bayless will be not impressed to hear that your download and upload speed is less than 2 meg on both those numbers, and the amount of abuse I've got from him for it being like less than 10. But we'll let you off if you're that rural, if that's the reason.
I do think though, I mean, it's not normally that low. I think it was because we were running this, and then I thought I'll try and do a speed test because it seemed particularly bad. But I think the bandwidth was being eaten by this. But yeah, it was showing like 0.8 download and 0.4 upload, just so that Darren could write that into his spreadsheet and keep track of it week to week.
Yeah, you might well have a diary for that. Before we move on and forget, please join our league if you're enjoying our content. Nick is still top, so by the end of the season, let's really try. Someone out there must be having a good season as well. And
I've remembered the league code now. Actually, I know it off by heart. It's 0NPH6D.
Excellent.
I had my you can't see on the camera, but I had my hands over my eyes then.
What content have you listened to this week then, Nick?
So I've been off this week and I've been messing about with my lawn. I'm trying to redo my lawn, which is a pretty nerdy thing. But when we moved into this house a few yeyears ago, I got a bit obsessed with the lawn, and then we've had some building work done. So I've been totally redoing the lawn this week, and I've been brutalizing myself doing it. But I've managed to listen to everything. Although at the time that I was listening to the FPL Wire with Late Riser and so far, maybe I was doing something a bit complicated at the time, like trying to sort out a solenoid manifold or something. But it didn't seem to me like Late Riser was on top form. I couldn't understand anything he was saying. Like, he didn't seem to be making a huge amount of sense. Have you listened to that yet?
I have, yeah. It's quite a short one, isn't it? I thought it was fine. I think Praz did a good review of it, and he said something like, "Oh, this was quite a nice, more." I think he maybe said like casual episode. It was like listening to it was like coming across two FPL geeks in a pub, and then sort of eavesdropping on them, just chatting away for an hour. Which I thought was quite a cute way of putting it.
It was a lovely episode. I enjoyed it. In fact, I listened to it twice because I thought, why have I not understood what Late Riser's saying? But there were a couple of times where Late Riser was trying to explain something, and then like Zoff just went, "Yeah, okay, you've done a pretty good job of explaining that." And I was like, "You haven't," because I didn't understand a single word of that. I think it was super early. I think it was super early in the morning for them, wasn't it? They were talking about they were going to head off to work. So I think maybe Late Riser hadn't had his coffee or something yet.
That's true. Yeah, the timing was different. Maybe the whole rhythm was off. But what sort of stuff did you think that didn't make sense in the second time? Maybe it still didn't.
What were they talking about? This was a couple of days ago now, but they were Late Riser were trying to explain. Was he trying to explain something like the number of players who've improved, or the teams that have improved, or something? And then he came to this conclusion, and I was like, that has nothing to do with what you've just been saying. I can't remember specifically what it was, but
I'd really like to know his opinion on United assets in the next couple of weeks. Sancho versus Fernandes versus Ronaldo. I think that's quite a big coin toss for me who I go with.
Yeah, he didn't really talk about that, did he? Whereas I have heard, like, I listened to a little bit of Black Box last night and this morning, and I didn't used to like Luke so much when he was on the Fantasy Football Scout podcast, like 4 or 5 years ago. When I started listening to it, he wasn't my favorite of the group on there, and you had like Mark and you had Andy and stuff like that. But I've listened to a few things of his recently. I think we talked about it on the pod last week, but he just talks a lot of sense, and he just seems to have a really kind of down-to-earth, kind of pragmatic approach to playing FPL now, and he doesn't take it too seriously, and he tries to enjoy it as much as he can. And although he always does sound a little bit grumpy and miserable about it all, but no, he's one of my favorite people to hear talk about FPL now. And they were talking about Manchester United assets for the next few weeks. and I think I'm going to move in that direction as well. I think for a possible bench boost, but it'll like all decisions, it'll make or break my season, I guess. But yeah, they didn't. It's funny for Late Riser not to talk about it when he's a United fan, but
I think it maybe indicates that they're not thinking about it until 33. I thought they were maybe considering going early on it next week with that Everton away fixture. Maybe they did talk about it and I'd just totally forgotten. But
yeah,
someone this week
I don't
I
remember.
heard did talk about Sancho, which I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah, I saw somebody on Twitter mention Sancho. I can't remember who it was.
I think it was someone saying like, "Oh, guess who I'm going to bring in that's less than 1% EO," but I can't remember who that was either.
Exactly. Was it FPL Goat or FPL? There's so many different FPL, so many different FPL people. Who was it? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Sancho is who you bring in if you can't afford to get De Bruyne, and he could do well, but he could also really, really not do very well at all.
But you think it's Bruno rather than Ronaldo for sure?
Well, I'm thinking of getting both.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I'm thinking of doing both, but maybe that's my madness. But
did you listen to Luke's little spin-off on what is it, FPL the Future or whatever he's got going on, or is it Unorthodox or something?
I haven't listened. I haven't listened to the. Did he? You sent me one last week, which I listened to and I loved. Like 10, 11 minutes.
Maybe it was
like in his car.
Ago. Yeah, that was good. He's I looked through the whole set he's got on wherever people get their podcasts. I think he's done quite a lot of Champ Man ones, but this week was his Man City lineup prediction, but in an audio form before the press conferences tomorrow. So it's his sort of thoughts on it, and it basically it's worth a listen. It's anyone that's listening to it will be slightly more put off bringing in any City assets.
Well, this is one of the things. This is one of the things I really took from Black Box was because I'm thinking of one defender transfer this week, and it will either be. I think it could well be Trent down to either James or Cancelo, and I think there's a huge risk with either of them because Cancelo, you've got the Burnley game, but then you've got Liverpool. You don't really want to be bringing him for Liverpool. Obviously, if it was Liverpool this week, you wouldn't think about bringing him in. But you've got that Burnley game. But having listened to Luke on Black Box, it does sound like Cancelo could miss that Burnley game.
Yeah.
And it's one of those really difficult decisions because if he plays, he could get 18 points. If he doesn't play, then you're like, well, I just used to transfer to get a player whose next game is against Liverpool and he's not playing this week, and I've got a bench player, which might be like Broya or someone like that. So, yeah, I'm guessing he spoke about Cancelo in that short pod that he does as well.
Yeah, he didn't go into too much on it. He did sort of talk about the whole team quite roundly, but he did mention he wouldn't be bringing in any City asset this week on balance. He said obviously they could go off. You could get on the lucky side of it, but he said it's a bit too risky. And their schedules for Liverpool and City is pretty mad, isn't it? They got both an easy in inverted commas league game, and then they play each other, and then they got two Champions League tricky ones. So it's going to be quite a busy couple of weeks for them.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can chat about Reece James as an option later. Yeah, but I guess I'll wait for press conferences. But I would love Tuchel to come out and say, yeah, Reece is amazing. He's great. He's going to be fine. But again, I think the fact that he came back last time, he played too many minutes in the League Cup final, and then he broke down, and he had that amazing game, and then he broke down at the end of that game. And I feel like Tuchel's going to be even more wary of rushing him back, especially when they're positioned in the league. I don't think they're going to, they're going to be trying to challenge for the title until they can't, but I don't think realistically they're going to go for the title. And so their spot looks pretty safe. So I just don't think he's going to risk him.
Yeah. It's tricky, so tricky. But then he was a doubt before that 18-pointer. And is he going to try and get some rhythm before their run comes up? Who have they got they're in the Champions League, aren't they?
Yeah, I can't remember who. Oh, have they got Real Madrid?
We'll jump ahead a little bit.
Or is it Liverpool who've got Real Madrid?
Doesn't say on that one. Not sure. Anyway, just to finish off what we've listened to this week, I've only listened to part of Black Box, but above average FPL I really enjoyed, and Adam, you probably got my DM a moment ago. I didn't manage to recycle your data into something, but I thought that was really interesting what those guys were talking about with XG game weeks 1 to 30 over the last couple of seasons, and then how teams end compared to how they spend the first 3 quarters of the season. I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
Let's go through the.
Did you listen to Planet FPL?
No.
Because I don't know who the guy who was on there was. He might have been from like Who Got the Assist or something like that. Because he kept mentioning Tom, like he's having a beer with Tom. So maybe it was the other guy from Who Got the Assist. I can't remember. But
Right.
it was really, really strange to listen to Planet FPL without Sudge on there.
All right. It was.
And it did actually totally change the dynamic of the podcast. It was weird.
I'm glad you stopped there because it sounded like you were about to slag off another podcast.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, the thing is, and also with Sudge, like I sometimes give Sudge a bit of a hard time because sometimes he's forgetting to do his team, or and he's like, I don't use data, and he's just a different voice in the FPL community. But I have to say to him, I didn't enjoy listening to it as much without Sudge on there.
Right. Okay. It's funny what you get used to, isn't it? Just the rhythm between 2 people.
Exactly. So yeah, come back soon, Sudge.
Right, let's go through these bits because we did say before this we'll probably keep it short, but we've done 11 minutes chit chat on the first slide.
Talking about my lawn.
Luckily, that was only 20 seconds.
I've got loads more. If you want me to go 10 minutes on that, Shay, I can give you more.
You did manage to drop the what was it? The electronic solenoid or whatever that you did text
solenoid manifold.
That's the one.
There you go. I'll explain what that is next week.
Right. This was updated. Mikhail Tokbam's ticker today. So this is the newest one. The only thing I wanted to sort of discuss on this was chip strategy really, and whether there's a couple of doubles maybe going to drop in 34, 35. But are you still thinking 33? We both got bench boost and free hit, right? It's still 33 and 36. And are you fairly settled on what you think on each, or is it pretty open?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I need to probably do a little bit more tinkering on the free hit 33, bench boost 36, because at the moment I'm pretty set on bench boost 33 and free hit 36, partly because of the stats that you showed us last week, or the info you showed us last week about how beneficial, how much more beneficial a free hit could be in 36. But I think also because with the bench boost chip, and they're the only 2 chips I've got left, free hit and bench boost, but with the bench boost chip, you almost need more certainty in order to play it, right? So you kind of need to know what the fixtures are. You need to know kind of which players you could get in, you could afford to get in, etc. Because you've got no bench. You're trying to get 15 players who are going to do something. And so for 33 now, by bench boosting in 33, I know I have more information for that. Like, yes, I could build towards a bench boost for 36, but I'll show you later. But the strategy that I'm going for, or trying to go for, means that I think the bench boost will work better for me in 33. The other thing I did without actually making any transfers or thinking about it, just looking at which week my bench looked the best in without any transfers, it was actually 35, I think.
Right.
And they'd all be single game week players, but it looked really good. And actually I'm hearing, from some of the content I've been listening to, that there is the potential for some teams to double in 35 as well. So that could slightly strengthen it. But at the moment, I'm looking at potentially getting 2 Newcastle players in ahead of 33 and 2 United players in. And that would mean that it almost looks like I'm benching, or like I'm bench boosting the Newcastle players, even though they're double game week players, because I think I would have 10 double game week players.
Okay, nice.
33. Just taking, I think it's 2 -4s on the way to 33. I'd have 10 double game week players and a really strong bench. So that's what I'm looking at. How about you? Which chips do you have left? Same.
Yeah, we've got the same chips. I'm still thinking the same way round. Bench boost 33. I've actually got 3 blankers at the moment for 33.
Yeah, I have 2.
Yeah. So everything would be kind of moving towards removing that. The other thing I've got in my head a little bit, which is I don't know, maybe not go into too much detail on an FPL podcast, but it's COVID in the UK. It's on the rise big time, and I just wonder maybe if 33 is. Well, I don't think either is maybe great for bench boost. I listened to something this week. Someone was saying that anyone who's actually got 15 players out on a bench boost week has done well, because I think maybe we're going to be in a bit of a tricky one doing it on either week. But I think maybe things are going to be better in 33 than they are 36 to get 15 out. So that leans me slightly towards that.
I don't know. It's really interesting because I think we'll see in the game week 31 fixtures what impact it's having, because I think you're right. It seems like it's everywhere at the moment.
Yeah.
And you do just get this feel of it because you know the number of people that you know in your inner circle or outer circle who've got it at the moment. But the one interesting thing is there don't seem to be any tests about. Like, nobody can get hold of tests because I think they're about to start charging for them. So they're kind of rolling that over. Like, my wife wanted to get some tests and she wasn't able to get some because they're changing that over. But the fact that they're recording such high numbers of cases and yet there aren't as many tests around is pretty mad. Yeah. But then you've also got things like, just bring it back to football, things like Gareth Southgate saying what he said about Saka, where he said that Saka tested positive for COVID, but given that you're allowed to wander about in the street now if you've got COVID, he didn't know why Saka wasn't going to be able to play for England. So I don't know. I mean, I don't actually even know what the difference is between the protocols in the general public versus what the Premier League protocol is. There just doesn't seem to be as much coverage of it now.
Yeah, true. I don't know the difference either. That's a good point. Yeah, anyway, maybe one to monitor. I'm still kind of keeping my options open on it. I'm leaning towards the bench boost 33, but either way, removing those 3 blankers is good, and probably going the same way as you, getting some Newcastle in. But am I right then that none of your transfers this week are to do with 33 though? Because it's the same for me. Well,
no.
They're not really loading up for bench boost or whatever now.
No, I don't think they are. I think that, although I think Burnley have another double in 33, and one of my transfers is to bring Pope in.
Yeah, true.
So but interestingly, depending on who I go for, if I go for James, if I go Trent down to James, I've got a bit more money to play with. But if I go down to Cancelo, I just haven't really got money to play with, and so it means it's much more difficult. So I think if I go to James, I might be able to keep De Gea and have two double game bench boosting keepers.
Yeah.
But I think if I go for Cancelo, I have to lose De Gea, so it's De Gea to Pope. And so, but the thing is, it's one of those things where you think, I've got to have 2, doubling keepers on a bench boost. But actually, you're only losing 1 goalkeeper fixture by not. If you have 1 doubler, like Foster's got Brentford at home in game week 33. So if I keep Foster, I'm still bench boosting, but I'm just bench boosting Foster against Brentford at home. I don't hate that.
Yeah.
Not when United have Liverpool away as one of their fixtures in that double game week. So
yeah, that saves quite a lot of money. I think that sounds all right.
Yeah, especially because, again, the thing about the bench boost that's really annoying and why people tend to do it, either straight after a wild card or before a wild card, is that you just, I don't want to have Pope and De Gea from game week 34 onwards for the last 4 or 5 game weeks of the season, when I've got all that, money tied up in goalkeepers and I need to make a transfer to move one of them out. So I think losing one of those fixtures isn't the worst thing in the world, especially because I think Liverpool will definitely score against United.
Unless COVID is a thing and 2 decent playing keepers is quite powerful. And I'm also just looking how they rotate. Both got a fairly crappy 37 fixture, Chelsea and Spurs.
Yeah, I saw that. That was actually the final nail in the coffin for having them. As I looked at 37 and went, well, which one would I want to play in that week?
Yeah, Chelsea might have a double though. Sorry, Chelsea. Don't know where that's come from. Pope probably won't have a double.
No, although they have got. I think I did hear that Burnley might have a double in 37 as well.
Yeah, I moved on to the defence ticker here for audio people, and it's grey for me for 37. So, well, Mikel's thing will definitely say 40% chance in 37, 25 in 34 or 35. So they don't know where it's going to go, I don't think.
Right, fair enough. But yeah, so it feels like, I mean, maybe this is what every week feels like, but it feels like, again, this is quite a big week for decisions, because I looked at my team I've been looking at my team for weeks, obviously for 31, and thought, it looks really great for 31, but I do actually have some really big decisions to make.
Yeah, I'm really on the fence again. I don't know if it's just doing this blimmin' podcast that we decided to do 11 episodes ago, but every single week I seem to be in a right stress ball of what I'm going to do. So.
I think it might be that, because you come on and talk about it, whereas actually normally you just think, and then you make your decision, and then that's kind of it. But you have to come out and actually explain how you're thinking about it at the time. Which a couple of days before the deadline, you're not well set, really.
I thought you were going to say it just comes really naturally, because the fact that you're struggling and making good decisions just suggests I'm crap at FPL.
No, I mean, again, we haven't looked at I think last week, obviously, we looked at our game weeks in 30, but yeah. I listened to kind of an international break pod. I can't remember which one it was. Maybe it was Black Box again. They were talking about the game week 30, but I just got so lucky again, like Rafinha nothing and Jimenez red card, and
yeah, Son was the biggie. Having Son and Kane not on a free hit, not many people had it. That was brilliant. And White, White and not Ramsdale. That 20 point swing.
Yeah, like but all that stuff. I mean, it's so lucky. I could have easily, not on a wild card, or not on a free hit. I could have easily just been like, I've got one of Son or Kane, I'm fine. But having both was huge. And then, like you say, like having White over Ramsdale. I mean, that's not actually a smart decision. It would have been much better to have Ramsdale, and yet that just worked out perfectly for me. So there's not a lot of good decision making. It's more like average decision making and just a huge amount of luck, I think. So, I mean, let's not forget that I took a -16 to get Kane and to have Kane and Son and White and everything else. So pretty random.
But then I did look earlier, and you are. Do you know how many points ahead of me you are?
No idea.
150.
Whoa.
Which is pretty insane. But
we should have put a bet on Schley at the start of the season.
All right, I thought you were going to say put that on the front page.
No. We should have put a bet on. I was joking with a friend because I bet him, or he messaged me at the start of the season because he smashed me last season. He's a big Spurs fan, and he wanted to bet me 1/50th of a Bitcoin, which when I looked at it was like £1,000 or $1,000. I was like, oh, that's a bit too tasty for me. So I said, how about 1/500th? So that's what our bet is, 1/500th of a Bitcoin. And I think I'm like 600 points ahead of it.
Wow. Nice.
He's having a bit of a nightmare. Last season, I think at one point, after like Son and Kane went mad at United, I think he was in like the top. I think he was in the top 1,000 for quite a while, and then eventually he finished like 12,000th or something. But
yeah, okay, he's a pretty serious player then.
Yeah, he's having an absolute nightmare this season, and he's trying to. When you're having a bad season and you try and go differential to try and catch up, and it just gets worse.
Yeah.
Like I think he didn't have Salah because he was like, well, I need to catch up. And Salah were just smashing it every week. But yeah, I'll send him this episode so he can know I'm talking about him.
So the only thing I want to say on this slide was which is the ticker defence. Over the next 8, the top 2 defences is Arsenal and Newcastle, which is quite interesting. So is that saying maybe we should think about a double up on Arsenal or a bit more, but with so many doubles coming up, it's tricky. I guess that what I'm saying there is I really hope Ramsdale is back because they have got some pretty juicy fixtures, and my De Gea backup, I'm just a bit worried that they're a bit leaky.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Newcastle being second is interesting.
Do you have 3 Arsenal already?
Yeah, I do. So yeah, Martinelli and Saka. So that would make that very difficult to switch around.
Same, but it does make me feel good about Newcastle though.
Yeah, Share or whoever coming in.
There's
a reddish fixture this week for Spurs away, but after that it does get pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. And he's one of those players. I've called him Shah, so I'm guessing that you've recently found out that his name is Cher, or you've always known his name is Cher. But desperately trying to think of Cher songs now.
He's got a double dot above his A, so I think it's Cher.
I believe in life after love. A bit of auto tune, but he often seems to get a goal, doesn't he? So
yeah, and I think he got like 10 in the previous double game week, didn't he? Seems to be one of those double game week players that pops up at the right time.
because in the run into that, it might have been Late Riser again who was talking about him, just saying that he seems to get a double-digit haul every 5 game weeks or something, and he was due one, and then he got one, and I was like, oh, look at that,
Nice.
ridiculous.
The other thing I found interesting here was that here we are clamouring for Chelsea and Liverpool assets. Well, certainly I'm thinking Robbo, James, maybe, but they're only 5th and 6th on the ticker. So I don't know if that is more a reflection of their XGC not being great, or just their matchups isn't great, or just maybe they haven't got a double, I suppose, coming up, so that maybe works against them. But I don't know if Trent isn't definitely in or out. I don't know whether getting Robertson is a smart move.
You've
got both, so it's easy.
It's nice. It's just lovely to have him, because I like you say, I don't think I'd be thinking about bringing him in. Although I guess I would have been thinking about him instead of Cancelo, or maybe instead of Cancelo or James. But I was just about to say, I mean, them being 5th and 6th on the ticker when they're as good as they are, but your tickers actually take into account how good they are, don't they? So
yeah, takes into account their form and their XGC, so and the XG of their opposition. I mean, maybe that City fixture for Liverpool counts against them a bit, but I mean, Chelsea don't have two tricky games on paper apart from Arsenal, coming up. So maybe it's just a lack of a double.
I guess there's Arsenal and United in there. Arsenal United away, isn't it?
For Chelsea.
Yeah, because they've got
33 Arsenal at home.
37. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if I knew that Reece James, if Tuchel in his press conference says Reece James is fit, I'm probably going there, because you just know how good he can be. Like I know Cancelo is an incredible player, and he is, but Reece James is just he's almost has as much guile as Cancelo, but he's also faster and stronger, and devastating. So
got a slide on that a bit later.
Nice.
Okay. Attack ticker. Things I found interesting on here is Liverpool are top, unsurprisingly.
Even with that Man City, even with City and United back to back.
Yeah, well, United I've got quite blue, so I'm expecting that to only go one way, really. But United are second, so that, especially that 33 fixture, means shouldn't really ignore them. Arsenal are third, so I'm really hoping that they're, Martinelli, albeit he's only 5.3. I keep forgetting how cheap he is, but he actually comes in with something. I'm annoyed that he's potentially blocking a defensive double up there.
Yeah.
And then Newcastle 4th and Burnley 5th.
Newcastle 4th, wow.
Yeah, despite that red fixture. So yeah, and they've got, these bold fonts as well suggest that they're against team that conceded 10 plus points quite regularly, and they're the only team other than Burnley who have got 3 fixtures like that in the next 4 game weeks, against teams that concede a lot. So I definitely think I'm happy to have Weghorst, but and it's funny how podcasts do switch your kind of opinion on what you're thinking. About 4 days ago, I was really keen on getting Cornet in, and then what did I listen to? Something made me completely swing off it. The risk of that was it. I have listened to a bit of Planet FPL, but the Clash of the Correspondents one.
Okay.
It was Everton versus Burnley one, and it was pretty depressing. It was.
I think I listened to the first 5 or 10 minutes of that, where James was apologising for how depressing it was going to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, this is 55 minutes worth, but I did it while I was doing the shopping, and it made me completely go off Cornet. I didn't realise he was an injury risk, but he's quite explosive. Maybe worth a punt if you haven't got Weghorst.
He hasn't done much. I mean, Cornet was really good in the first, was it the first 10 game weeks, or maybe like 5 to 15 or something? But exactly. He hasn't done much recently, has he?
Correct. Yeah. One big fear I've got this week is I won't probably have Son. The Newcastle fixture does worry me, but then the fact they're only 9th on the ticker, again, maybe the fact there's no double coming up is a bit helpful.
I'm starting to worry about Spurs playing Newcastle, because Newcastle isn't, they're not what they were at the start of the season. They're a totally different animal now, and
as in defensively more solid.
Yeah, as in everything. But yeah, I think I heard somebody saying about how much better they are defensively.
Yeah.
So I'm really worried about it. In fact, I'm so worried about it, and I like the United Leicester fixture so much that I might make one of my I might make one of my Fernandes or Ronaldo transfers this week.
Wow. What, do Son to Fernandes?
Potentially, so either Son to Fernandes or Kane to Ronaldo, but I don't love it. It'll definitely be a -4, and it's basically just bringing a transfer forward from next week because I'm thinking of taking both Son and Kane out next week.
Right. The only thing I'd say on that, have you looked at the trickiness of the captaincy next week? Because a lot of people are thinking that Kane is the best option there.
But this is the thing. I don't love Villa away.
No, I don't either. Although the ticker here doesn't mind it. Bluish. Well, no, pretty blue. And in a week where, according to this on paper, like Saka or someone at Brighton is decent. Burnley and Norwich, but you're not going to go there, surely. Brentford, no. And Newcastle, no. So, the next big hitter in terms of colour is Spurs.
Yeah.
Tricky. But I know what you mean.
You've got United against Everton away as a white fixture, so not particularly great. And yet, I just think Everton, depending on let's see what happens in that Burnley game. Maybe I won't make the transfers this week because Newcastle could be fine. I do think there'll be loads of goals in that United Leicester game, though.
Okay.
But I guess Leicester have started to get loads of players back from injury, haven't they? So they might be.
Yeah, improving. Evans is a biggie for them, isn't he? If he comes back.
Yeah, and Fofana and
Fernandes has got a good record against Everton, though. I think actually away as well. So I'd be tempted to Son to Fernandes next week.
Yeah, and this thing is because I don't really like the Spurs Villa fixture, and because I would really want to do it the week after for the United double, I'm thinking if I like, for example, Son to Fernandes, why don't I like Kane to Ronaldo as well? It's the same. It's a similar thing for me.
But it would that's why I'm thinking -4 makes it massively more risky.
It does, but it would potentially probably, and this is why I need to look at my plan. But if I'm going to be taking a hit in 33 anyway to bring in Newcastle players, then it's a -4 that I'm just bringing forward a week.
True. Okay.
So, yes, but you're right. It's hugely risky because if Spurs go off against Villa, suddenly I'm in big trouble. So.
I haven't fully got through Black Box yet, but this next slide they were loving on that. I thought I'd put that in because it shows the just the schedule for City, Liverpool, Chelsea being tricky. I think it's Chelsea have got Madrid, isn't it? Real Madrid, sorry. Yeah. City have got Atletico and Liverpool have got Porto, I think. And then the fact is Liverpool versus City before 33. Their next 4 fixtures after 31 is only involving 2 teams, and they're both massive fixtures, so that's going to be pretty crazy.
Yeah, is this where Az didn't thought this was a man, and actually it was Adriana?
Adriana, yeah.
Luke was like, "Shame on you, Az."
Bombalon, a Bombalon. It's a beautiful name.
It's cool. It's cool graphic though. I do think sometimes, I do wonder. I'm not very design orientated, but just that idea, like I'm gonna create something that shows all of this on one piece of paper, and like, how am I going to do that? Oh, I don't know. I'll do it like this. But yeah, it's pretty easy.
Very nice. I've only just noticed actually it's ordered by league position as well, so that's kind of fun as well.
Yeah.
So we got
just shows as well, doesn't it? You look at those top 3 teams in the league,
dominate in the competitions,
and they're all in loads of competitions still because they're that good. That's just how it works.
Yeah. Saw this today. Regret FPL on Twitter. So on a nice graph on the y-axis, XGI per 90, which Trent and James absolutely dominate, and then on the x-axis, team XGC, where top left is the best place to be. So Trent and James are in a league of their own there. Then it's Region in a kind of interesting position, not for the greatest team, but quite attacking. But we're not going there if we've got Doherty. And then,
Cancelo. This is the thing. I mean, Cancelo being where he is shows why I want James instead of Cancelo.
Exactly. That's interesting. Yeah, if you had a choice of one or the other, or is that just recency bias? James is your best mate. Cancelo's not been 10 pointing plus, has he? But that 18 points has still got to be in your memory.
It is, and also the times that I've benched Cancelo this season, he's hurt me every time, which should make me think I need to have him, but it actually just makes me not like him as much. But no, I think it's just more that I think they're both potential benching risks this week. I think Chelsea's fixtures are better because they don't have that big. Obviously City have got the game against Liverpool. I can see both teams scoring in that. And James he's almost a million less, isn't he? I think he's 6.1, 6.2, and Cancelo's 7, I think.
I think it's 6.2 and 6.9. So yeah,
Is
not
it
quite
okay?
a bigger difference, but yeah,
Yeah,
might
it
have gone
makes
up
a
a
big
bit.
difference.
Who've Chelsea got in? Okay, Southampton 32, and I can't remember who they've got in the cup. But yeah, that 32 fixture have been a bit easy. I don't know. Trying to predict Tuchel's movements in team selection here is tricky. But what you think is that league game is easier? He's got more chance of playing, James.
I don't know. I mean, the thing about James, and the thing that made me want him at the start of the season was I went to look at. I've said this a few times, but went to look at Chelsea's team sheets for the Champions League games that they
He's
obviously
definitely
won.
first choice, basically.
Yeah, he's absolutely first choice. But the thing for me is because Chelsea aren't going for the title and they're probably pretty comfortable for top 4, he's surely going to rest James in the league and play him in the Champions League, especially because James has been injured and he's coming back from injury and can't. I don't think he's going to start throwing him in for 3 games in 10 days anytime soon. So no, I mean, kind of going against what I've just said, it probably means that he's much more likely to be rested in the league, isn't he? So
on paper, yeah, I think you're right. Just speaking that out loud is interesting. I think if Tuchel comes out and says he's fit, he's going to play, or similar-ish, then I might be tempted. I mean, this is a double up for me because I've already got Thiago Silva, which makes it a bit harder to get him maybe because I would have to be not jumping on either Liverpool or City, which we'll come to later. But I think if he's not committed one way or the other on whether he's going to play, I think it's too risky to go there. I mean, it's hard to know the narrative, isn't it? Get him rhythm, get him back in the team before Champions League is won, or like you say, why would you risk him in the league?
But I think, no, that's absolutely right. I think if James is fit, I think he'll play this week in the league because it's about rhythm and getting him back fit and, giving him minutes. Maybe you'll give him literally 50 minutes to be like, right, go and play, and not hook him at half time, but as close to. But you look ahead, things like that Southampton fixture, and just think he's probably not going to play that game.
Yeah.
That's the risk. There was one plan I had where I was thinking about Havertz because, again, it's not a bad idea to have coverage from Liverpool, City, Chelsea. At the moment, I don't have any Chelsea.
Yeah.
I don't have any City. So, I could go Cancelo in to get a bit of City coverage and then Havertz in midfield. But having Havertz instead of Son, because I think I don't think I could upgrade anybody in midfield to Son without completely trashing my team. But Son down to Havertz would be nice. But again, I have the same concerns about Havertz in that he's absolutely first choice for Tuchel, and he's going to miss the odd league game, and you're not going to be able to predict when they are.
Yeah, Az was pretty bullish on him, wasn't he, on Black Box, saying he wouldn't get upset anyone getting him in, but I don't know. I think that's maybe a bit of a favouritism. Like he's done well for him. I think this season I've never had him. I think that's too risky to go for it, like you say.
I mean, I think he looks like a totally different player to the one they signed, or the one who played the first season after they signed him. And I just thought he looked awful. His confidence was shot. But there's been some moments this season where you think actually you can see why they spent the money on him. They did. He looks absolutely class. But the problem is we're now at the business end of the season.
Yeah.
Remember when we used to play Football Manager League? March onwards was the exciting time, and there were all those competitions. You had to rotate your team. And so with Son, this is the reason why I liked Arsenal and liked Spurs was because they're not in any other competitions.
Yeah.
But Son, Son's going to play every game from now until the end of the season. They don't have any doubles, but he's going to play every single game.
Yeah. And one of the big things that Planet FPL James was saying is that the way he slogs the Spurs team every few days, a game is not great for their setup, but they've got a game a week now. So
yeah,
I don't think you should sell Son this week.
No, I probably won't. I probably need to because I was really bullish. I'm going to get rid of Trent, etc. I've got 2 transfers, and I can't get Pope without downgrading somebody. But maybe I maybe I just need to have more of a think about it, because I just think with both Cancelo and James, there are definite risks.
Yeah. Okay. Next was a slide I had on the relegation teams, and Burnley and Everton are in some people's thoughts regarding doubles. So the image on the left is the info that I put into my ticker. XG over the last 4 at home, XG last 4 away, and also XGC for both of those. And then
where do you get your XG and XGC stuff from Scout?
Yeah. Members area Scout. And then on the right is the form home and away over the last 3, which I get off some websites, soccerpunter.com or something. It's changed over the years, but yeah, and a few tweaks on who's got a new manager bounce and stuff is in there. But anyway, that translates to the image on the right, which is Burnley, Everton, Norwich, and Watford's form on the left, where Norwich are awful home and away, but Burnley are not too bad in this little mini league of 4 at the bottom. And on the right is their net XG minus their XGC, and again, Norwich are absolutely horrendous, minus 13. If you add, on the left 2.6 to 3.5, and then minus the 7 and the 11, that you get a really negative number. So this suggests basically that Burnley on balance are the best to invest in. And I think I was almost thinking of this chart when I was thinking about Cornet, or maybe doubling up on just getting a defender from Burnley might be a good way to go. But Watford are also not too bad.
Yeah. But I was just going to say, I mean, I guess you say Burnley are the best despite them having a lower number than Watford, but just because Burnley have got the double and Watford haven't.
True. Yeah. So probably not want to dwell on too much, but I presume you're not thinking Pickford in any way over Pope.
I'm not. I just think I'm not thinking about any Everton players at all. And I think I was listening to today where they were talking about the number of fixtures. It might have been Black Box again, but just the sheer number of fixtures that Everton have got, it is insane. But I just don't actually think they're going to win that many games from now until the end of the season. I still think they're in big trouble. I think they might go down.
Yeah, that's what the guy on James's pod was saying. They're going to have to play their best team all the time, but yeah, is that going to be good enough to get them out of it?
Sure. I mean, even if Lampard just hadn't said what he said, I mean, maybe he thought he was going to get a reaction, but if he thinks his team are mentally weak, and then he's chastising them publicly, if they are mentally weak, they're not going to respond well to that.
I maybe missed that. Was that after the previous league game?
Yeah, he in his press conference, he basically said they don't have the balls to play at this level.
Oh wow, okay.
I mean, he was saying, if you don't have, but it translated to, I don't think this team is mentally strong. And again, I think there's a huge difference between him saying that to them in the dressing room, and almost like calling them out for it. There's a very different thing by him saying that in a press conference where the players then watch it back, and it's like he's talking about them behind their backs.
Yeah. The chap whose name I've forgotten on the Clash of the Correspondents was saying that he thinks Lampard's a good manager, but it's just not in the right situation. No. Below average players, and in a relegation fight, he's just not the right man for that.
No, if he keeps them up, then he'll start next season with a clean slate. He'll probably do fine. I don't think he's going to keep them up, and I think that he's in big trouble.
Yeah. Did you hear that? I think this is reflected in the graphic that XG has had a bit of a makeover as well recently. I can't remember where I heard this, but
oh really?
You remember I can't remember who Liverpool were playing, but the Jota chance where he was almost under the bar and he missed, comes across on the right and he spoons it over. That on the old XG model would have had about 0.65 or something XG because of all the weightings that they had, but now the new model is 0.9, which sounds a lot more sensible.
So hang on, what? Because this is the thing that I've never really understood about XG, is that to me it still must be subjective to the person who's there in the ground from Opta or whoever else, and who's going, right, that's a 1, or that's a 0.9 or whatever. But you're saying there's loads and loads of different ways that they assess it based on
Yeah, I
where
think so.
like
I
what blade
think
of grass they're standing on in the penalty area.
yeah, I don't think it is subjective at all. I think it is how high the ball is, how fast it's travelling. That's it. I think it's partly to do with what their view of the goal is. I think they've modelled what's in front of them at the time, and that's gone into the calculation. It's whether it's on their weak foot, good foot, all this sort of stuff. It's amazing.
But this is the thing though, isn't it, Shlee, that like you're trying to, and I know no model is perfect, but you're trying to like, let's say the ball comes in from the left and the player is leaning towards the right and he should shoot with his left as it comes, as it comes towards him, but actually he decides he's going to take it early and he takes it with the outside of his right foot. I mean, like, this is the thing about XG, that there must be an element of subjectivity to it, because it has to be decided by somebody. Even they're applying the rules to it, like an offside decision. We try and apply metrics to an offside decision. Some people get it, some people disagree or agree on whether it's offside or not. So I just think when somebody says that's a 0.9 XG chance and somebody else says, oh, I think it's a 0.651, it must be subjective. And so that's the thing. We take all these numbers and we run with them, but we don't know whether we would agree with the underlying analysis.
Well, isn't the argument there that it's 0.9 because they have studied 10,000 goals and maybe 20 of them are in a similar situation of Jota being under the bar on his weak foot on a rainy day, and
Yeah,
90% of them have gone in? I thought that was where they established 0.9 from.
I think it is as well, but I just think that I think that's where that whole point you just said about they have to apply, like, right, it's left foot and he's left footed, or it's stronger foot, his preferred foot.
Yeah.
But they can't, they can't look at 10,000 goals and find 10,000 that are exactly the same
No,
as,
no,
or
sure.
10,000 chances that are exactly the same with that one. They're almost having to look at however many goals and just layer over more and more kind of striations of data to try and come up with a model. But I'm not saying that I don't like XG and XGC. It's a nice way of boiling it down. I just don't always 100% believe in the
No,
maths.
that's fair. I totally agree on that. And it's a tool for people like me who don't watch a lot of football that can instantly look at all 20
Yeah.
teams and roughly understand where they're at, which is,
Yeah, true.
I say, all I want to get out of it. But I probably do stare at it too much and take too much gospel from it.
No, not. I'm not saying that it's a bad metric at all. I mean, it's brilliant. It's one of the great things that's come out in the last few years that we all use, and it definitely works. Especially when you look at it over a large enough sample size, it definitely works. But it's just funny that whole, when you hear that they've reclassified it, it almost. I think the more you drill into it, the more it starts to be like, looking behind the curtain, Wizard of Oz type thing.
The
Probably the
lesson
good
learned
idea
is
is not to drill into it too much, not to think about it too
yeah.
much.
The lesson learned is I should have WhatsApped you before this and said, "Hey, have you heard about this XG revolution?" And you would have said, "Piss off," and then I wouldn't
And I
have
said,
raised
absolute hogwash.
it. Okay, captaincy for this week is a pretty big whitewash, although you're made Popes in second. Have you
Nice.
got any doubts on Salah, except, well, are you going to be around for the deadline to hear if there's any leaked news, or are you out and about?
Is Liverpool the first game?
Yeah.
Oof. Thing is, now, because they made the very sensible decision of moving the deadline back, you just cannot rely on the news, can you? And so I
True. Look at
wonder if
Rafinha last week.
there should be like an X news stat, because there've been a number of times this season that I have been listening to deadline streams, and like Andy, for example, and like the Rafinha one was, is he going to play? Is he not going to play, etc. But there've been a number of times in the last two seasons where I've listened to things where there is early news, or somebody, there's a source for somebody like Andy and he reads it out or he doesn't read it out, whatever. And I would guess it's like at the moment like 50% right and 50% wrong. So it's just like, you never know. And if you're listening to that stuff and you hear, oh, Salah's not playing, and then you move your captaincy off him and then he is playing and he gets a hat trick, you're just going to be absolutely devastated, aren't you? So
True. I don't know if it would be 50-50. And there's definitely been a few cases where they haven't talked about stuff they've had, and they've, I
yeah,
think, most times turned out to be true, as in they should have shared it. But I think if it's, from non-blue accounts or whatever and not many followers, they take
yeah,
it with a pinch of salt and don't broadcast it. I don't know. I know that deadline to move. But a lot of people were saying that Liverpool are one of the teams where people do often get news, and Salah
true.
travelling with his Egypt stuff and with Trent a doubt, it's actually quite a good one to have early. So I'm not quite sure what I'm doing, and if Cat's listening to this, she'll be killing me that I'm thinking of listening to something, but I will try.
No, fair enough. I might try as well. Having said that, because you're right, Liverpool are one of the teams where, because they have
doubts.
they seem to have a lot of people who are in the know, and so
I mean, imagine if you knew one of, blimey, imagine both as well. Trent and Salah are not in the 11. That's a quick scramble to change things, isn't it?
Or the reverse, that you find out that Trent's back early and Salah definitely is playing. Then
true.
Sweet, Captain Salah, don't sell Trent.
True. Yeah, and I think that's the default position most people are going to be in, isn't it? Captain Salah and start Trent, because, well, a few days ago Trent was apparently struggling for 32, but then today he's in training on his own, but it is in full training. So
I don't think, if I had to put a bet on it, I would bet Trent will not play against Watford.
Okay.
I think if it was the City game next, I'd be like, right, I think it's probably 70-30 he does play.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's worth them risking him for Watford.
Yeah. Said as a smug Robbo and Trent doubler.
Not smug at all, because I don't really want to sell Trent. I'd rather not have to even think about that. But I think because there was a time, I think Robbo had COVID, didn't he, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
At the start of the international break, but then he played for Scotland. So again, that kind of confuses our whole COVID thing again.
Yeah.
So you're like, great, Robbo's fine. But there was a time where a couple of weeks ago when my tinkering involved getting rid of Robbo and keeping Trent. So I don't want to sell Trent because he can really, really hurt you. But I think if I'm getting in, even if it's particularly Cancelo, I feel like at the moment they're probably pretty like for like.
Yeah.
Especially because they're both playing, they play each other next week. So yeah, I don't mind that, and it gives me a bit more money. It just might mean that I don't, even though their fixtures go really nice. I think is it in 34, 35 when they play Everton, and then they've got some great fixtures after that. I just I don't know whether I'm going to get him back.
That Everton game though is a weird one. It's the I think I've said this before. I colour everything per game week, but if I was to colour the whole chart blue and red, that Liverpool Everton game would be the brightest blue possible. Like it's the perfect. Liverpool are crazy at home, stats are crazy. Everton are god awful away, but it's a derby. But then Liverpool have rotated in that fixture before. I think the last 2 seasons, I can't remember if they were really ahead, but Klopp treated it almost like we're just going to beat these guys with a second string. A lot of players were out, so I don't know how to read that one, but that does, on balance, I think maybe not too worried if Trent is out to get rid.
Exactly. I think the United game coming straight after the City game as well. Even though I think Liverpool absolutely smashed United in that game, to be honest. But in fact, maybe I'm probably more afraid of the United game than any of the others with Trent, probably, because he'll be up for it if he's back fit. But yeah, I don't want to think about selling him, but I don't think he plays Watford at all. So
okay, right. My team for next week is looking like this: 3-5-2. Bro, your first sub is pretty settled. I've put Harrison in because I like that Southampton fixture and he's done well for me last week, but to be honest, it's not the most exciting 11th man. It could be either of those, and it's a bit of a toss-up, but they're not great. So I've got 2 free transfers, a lot in the bank. So if I was going to use them both, it would probably be, at the moment, if Trent's out, a Trent replacement and one of the 2 defenders on the bench, Nouri and Digne, who haven't got a 33 fixture, and promote one of those and bench Harrison. And the question is, and I've written it kind of down here to maybe not forget what to say, short list is Robbo, Cancelo, James. I could get any 2 of those if I sold Trent. The only other thing I've got in my head is my worst fear this week is Son exploding, and if I did do 2 of those,
that's probably Son's greatest fear as well. It's funny when you see stuff like that written down, because when that slide came up, I was like, that's a really irrational fear. I mean, Son is not going to explode, but obviously it's a football term. But when it's written down like that, it just looks, especially if you just change the O to a U, then it's terrifying then.
But the only way to do that, obviously, would be Kulusevski up. So it's got a lot of risk in that. But it was comforting to hear quite a few pods this week where people have got Kulusevski and no one has mentioned that. So I think I just need to get over it. I'm just annoyed that, just jealous of you having Son last week and me having.
Could you go directly from Kulusevski to Son with 3.9?
No.
Okay.
Not too far off. I think, what is he, 6 point?
He's 6.2,
3? Yeah, I was going to say maybe 6. So that's not quite enough, is he? To think Son's nearly 11 now. But with Trent going down, I could probably do Trent to anyone and Kulu up. But then it's the start of Son's crappy run, so it's one game I just need to get through.
And I don't think it's. I mean, again, let's say Newcastle. I don't know what on current form where they would be placed, but I would guess it's probably top 8 on form. And if they were, if Spurs were at home to, I don't know.
I was just going to look here actually on Newcastle. Yeah, so at home they're really good. They've got the best form you can have, but away not great. But their XGC away is strong, 3.3.
Yeah.
Goal XGC is that? Oh, that's over 4 games. Their XGC per game is less than 1, which is very good. And Spurs at home, decent attack. I don't know. That probably says
this is the thing. Like, let's say Spurs were at home to Wolves, right? You wouldn't be afraid of not owning Son for that game. Newcastle is not the same. We're so used to seeing Newcastle and thinking, great, my players playing Newcastle. It's just not the same anymore. So I wouldn't worry about it at all.
Interesting.
If you go back to your team, so I may have misheard you on this. Are you thinking of doing Trent down to one of those 3 and then Ait-Nouri up to one of the others?
Yep. Or Dean, you're up to one of the others. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So I thought you were talking about promoting, meaning putting them into your team, but you mean as in swapping them out. So yeah, that's so powerful, isn't it? To have, a lot of people have been talking about, big at the back coming back again.
Yeah.
I've been doing it all season just because the defenders offer such incredible value. But yeah, that looks great, doesn't it? To have, if you can bring in 2 of those 3 into your team for no hit. Are you not tempted by one of Ramsdale or De Gea to Pope, even for a -4?
Yeah, but I think having 2 playing keepers is an advantage that if one of them is out, you don't burn a transfer on that. And the advantage I've got is getting that big at the back.
Oh, I see. As in, because you mean because you would still have 2 playing keepers, right? Because you bring a Pope in, but you mean you don't use a -4 on it because that's the whole point of having 2 playing keepers.
Yeah. Well, just burning a transfer on it, you don't do that because I've got De Gea coming in, and it's not as good a fixture. I think I've got it the right way round. Actually, my defence ticker, I think they're quite close. Arsenal is bluish. United's bluish, so they're about as good as each other. I think I prefer Ramsdale just with the EO.
And Arsenal have the double in 33 anyway, so you don't need Pope for that double.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, if Ramsdale's out 2 months, then maybe more tempting. But my understanding is it's a short-term thing. It should be about 33. Yeah. It has crossed my mind though. Yeah, for sure, because that fits the good model of a double in 33. Plus, I get an extra fixture this week. But one of them's, City. Everyone's saying it's 2 points plus Everton.
Yeah, I mean, it may not even be 2 points, right? Because he might, if he concedes 5, then it's not 2 points. Yeah, nice. I really like the idea of getting into mega defenders for this.
And if let's say Trent is out, would you do Trent to Robbo to cover Liverpool, and then Cancelo, given I've got Thiago Silva?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I probably would, because there is that fear with, again, if Tuchel says James is looking amazing, and he's going to play 3 times a week for the rest of the season, then I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'd get James in. But he's not going to say that. He's going to say, oh, we're going to see how he goes, and we don't want to rush him back because he it didn't go well last time. So yeah, I would do for you. I would do Robertson and Cancelo. I think that's pretty easy to do.
Yeah, agreed. If Tuchel does come out and say something mad like that, I have considered getting all 3 of them in, which I think I can afford, and doing Silva to James, but that's maybe a bit silly because
I think Silva to James for -4 is has the potential to pay off, but again, James could just be benched, and then you're going to be like, I really wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah. Okay. Your team, and sorry, I've only got this graphic of you, and it's not going to be easier to show any tinkering. So are you?
No worries at all. Okay. I am still not amazingly set on what I'm going to do. In fact, I'm not set on what I'm going to do at all. So I think I've spoken about most of my potential options. So it's Trent to either James or Cancelo. Again, I'm going to wait for the press conferences and figure out what's going on. Although Trent is dropping in price now, isn't he? I think he dropped the other night. Is he looking like he's going to drop again?
I have no idea. Given you're -16 recently, you're probably a lot more on it than me.
I don't think it matters if he drops again for me, because I think I lost 0.1 on him the other night, so I don't think I'll lose another one until he drops twice, so that's fine. But so the Trent to James or Cancelo, and I'm pretty set, unless Klopp says no, he is going to be back for Watford. I'm pretty set on losing Trent, which is pretty dangerous. And my team has been called River Trent for many years, even though I'm a United fan, because he's absolutely class, and I like the pun. But then the other options are potentially Son to Havertz, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Son to Fernandes, I don't think I'm going to do that this week. So I think I'm pretty set at the moment on Trent down to somebody, and then De Gea to Pope.
Cool.
Because I don't think the Burnley defense is amazing, but the United defense is definitely not amazing either. And I think Pope is a much better fantasy asset than De Gea. He's much more likely to get bonus. If they are going to do well, I just would absolutely love Burnley to keep a clean sheet against City. That would be epic. But yeah, I think I'm going to do Pope just because they've got so many fixtures and they've got more to rearrange, and their fixtures to be rearranged are pretty good. And so I just like that, and that would be for free for me this week. So,
but De Gea does have a double in 33, so you're only gaining a fixture this week, and it is, for argument's sake, the City fixture. So you're using a transfer to get maybe just 2 points.
Yeah, but isn't there the counter argument to that United have got Liverpool in 33, so that's just 2 points, and the other one's Norwich. So I think he probably will keep a clean sheet in that. But Burnley's is Everton at home, and I don't know. Everton could score. I'm just not sure they will. But Pope's got more fixtures outside of 31 and 33. Pope's got more across the season to come, hasn't he? So I think, will United have a double in 36? I don't think they will they?
Correct. Yeah, after 33, that's it, I think, for them. Just check with
whereas Burnley, I think, are going to have another 3 doubles, aren't they?
Well, United have got 9 fixtures this season. Everton have got Burnley have got 11. Yeah, so you get 2 more. Yeah. And
no, you're right. I mean, I had considered, and this is the thing we talked about, right? I mean, maybe this is the difference. If I get Reece James, I think I might be able to afford to do Foster to Pope. But as we talked about, all that does is just one extra fixture in my bench boost. So I don't, and it's what will that extra cash do for me over the rest of the season? So I think I'm pretty set on De Gea to Pope. But yeah, you're right. I have looked at the fact that United have got that double in 33 anyway,
and if all is equal and nothing comes out concrete about any of Trent, Cancelo, and James, are you ditching Trent, and do you know which one you're getting in?
It's so difficult because I do think it makes sense to ditch Trent, especially when they got City after Watford. But I can imagine myself getting Cancelo in and then him being benched against Burnley and just being really, really annoyed that I've brought this player in, and then he's got Liverpool next. So I guess the alternative is, but there's no way for me to get Pope in if I don't ditch.
Yeah, okay.
If I don't drop somebody down, and that's the thing. If I had the money to go to Gea to Pope, I think I'd probably just bench Trent this week and play The other thing that's really difficult about this, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it, if you had that bench, what would be your bench order? Because I really like Seiss against Villa, but he's currently third on my bench after thinking about it. So
God, good
it's
job,
really
Rich
weird
isn't
where
here.
I'd almost take Trent out and put Seiss in, but if that's right, then Seiss should be my first bench.
Yeah, that is tricky. Well, I was about to say, are you not tempted by size to share to get the money for De Gea to Pope?
Ooh, Mr. Schlee.
That gets you
Who
ahead
have,
of the
who have
game.
Newcastle got this week? They've got Spurs. I
Yeah,
don't
so you'd be
love that.
definitely third benching him, but it just gets that done and frees you up the
Do you know what
cash.
that's such a clever way of thinking about it, because I still bench him because he's playing Spurs, but it just means that I'm moving the transfer that I'm pretty set on for 33 bench boost forwards by 2 weeks.
Yeah, as long as the maths works, size is 4.6, I think, and shares 4.4, so
I think
it will be
Seiss
a bit
might be
tight.
like 5. I think Seiss is like 5-1,
Oh, right.
isn't he? Or 5.
Oh, right, okay.
I
Although I
think.
am just telling you to take out someone you're considering putting in your 11, so got to be a bit careful of
No,
that.
no, no. I mean, that I do like that a lot, because it means that it's the kind of move that I love, because it's just bringing forward a transfer that I'm almost certainly going to make anyway in order to bench boost. So I guess the only risk is if Share gets injured before 33, right? That I've
Yeah,
brought him in.
or if size scores. But yeah, Villa, I'm just looking at the relative ticker on that. It's not amazingly green.
But if Seiss scores, he's likely to be on my bench because he's currently third bench. So
Yeah,
I'm not amazingly fearful of Seiss scoring, because if he does, he would have been third bench anyway. Because this is the thing I looked at before I sent you this team is Broja against Leeds. I mean, Leeds are still Leeds. Broja hasn't been great, but Leeds are still Leeds, and he is the attacker. Ramsey, I don't love the Wolves fixture, but he is quite explosive. He's not, he's not as explosive as Son, potentially, who you fear exploding. But but whereas I do think, I think I said with you and Rich last week, I think that Villa Wolves game is going to be a 0-0. I've just got this feeling it's going to be a 0-0. So, but no, I really like that idea. I might, it depending on the team news we get and the
might
risks
be a
of
way. I mean,
concern.
all I'd say on that, splitting those three is, yeah, I can have a look on RMT for you. I think that sort of thing is quite good. You can argue about how it's modelled, but at least it's modelled consistently, albeit I've got one of each position there. On face value, looking at that, I would put it that way round, because I'm thinking, okay, Bro hasn't done much, but Leeds away, it could be anything.
Yeah.
The other two, like you say, is a derby. It could be quite low scoring. But yeah, you're right though. Seiss might be a bit of an overlooked third sub, but he's not getting in the 11, so yeah, it's just where he goes on the bench. And you're not worried about, let's say, COVID's rife. I mean, the good thing about your team there, 4-4-2, you've got a defender to come on.
Yeah.
Mine is a little bit more risky. If Trent's out and I didn't do anything, say, I could only have 2 playing defenders this week. I mean, maybe actually even one. Silva is maybe a bit of a risk, so I need to do at least one defensive transfer for that reason as well, whereas you should have 4 there.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely have 4. Well, I mean, if Trent's out, then Broja or Ramsey could come in.
That's exactly true. Yeah, and then if that order stays the same, you don't even need size. But say, I don't know, one of those guys has got, say bloody Kane's got COVID or something, then you might need your bench.
Indeed. Yeah, really appreciate that. That's a really nice little nugget actually to take away. Is just look at potential other ways to get Pope in without forcing.
You haven't got any money to spare anywhere else. If you you can't go down 21 really. That's useful. Ramsey can't, but Seiss. Yeah, I thought it was 4.6, but you might be right. If he's 5, then that's a bit of a cash cow, isn't it? Albeit not
I just also love the fact that you've picked Seiss to share when that's the exact transfer that I'm thinking of for 33. So all it does is just bring it earlier. Yeah, and it gives me an extra transfer to play with if I'm going to keep Trent anyway. So
nice.
Let's see. I'll probably end up with James, won't I? But
yeah, it'll be interesting. Let's see tomorrow. Yeah, keep a close eye on that if I can.
Just one thing before we go. Do you, when you're picking your team, and I see I've made a visual mistake here by my own accounts, because I should have Kane, Son, and Doherty all in the same line. Do you try and make sure that it's all correct?
No, I couldn't even tell you the way you would do that. I'd probably better figure it out after like a couple of minutes of putting them in and out. But I think it takes quite a bit of time, doesn't it? Don't you have to
It doesn't.
put them all in the right order in each line?
No, you get very used to it. So basically, the defenders fill from the left.
Can't believe we're concluding with this, but yeah.
And when I say fill from the left, I mean from the left back position. So if you
where
took
Robertson is, okay.
So say I wanted Doherty to be my left back, I would take Doherty out and swap him with Broja, and then I'd reverse that, and then Doherty would be on the left hand side of that defense.
Okay.
And then the midfielders fill the other way, because I think so. It's really weird. So if I wanted Martinelli to be my right winger, I would have to do the same thing. But it's funny, because if you want, say you want Son to be a right winger, like if you want to fill them all in, you almost have to do them all in the right order to get them into the right position.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that was annoying me. You have to, in your head, have the exact order, and if you get it wrong, you've got to start again. Which for only.
But that's only if you have. That's only if you have 5 in one line. So as in, actually, if I wanted Robertson to be my right back, I could just swap him with Seiss, and then swap Trent with Seiss, and then swap Robertson in for Seiss again. If that makes sense.
No, but
like as in, if I wanted Robertson to be my right back, I could swap Trent for Seiss, so Seiss becomes my right back. Then I swap Robertson for Trent, so Trent becomes my left back, and then I swap Robertson in for Seiss, right back. That's the quickest way to do
it. I understand that you're speaking English, but I just can't follow what you're saying.
Am I doing a late riser from this week's?
I'll have to listen to it 3 times to understand.
I'm doing like for like swaps. Instead of running with these lines, I'm just saying, right, Robertson out, then back into the team in the right back slot.
Okay.
No,
I lost you. No, I do kind of get it. It's just one of those that's easier to see it, isn't it, and do it yourself rather than listening.
But like I couldn't have a team. Names. Like I get a little bit anxious when I have like 4 right backs. like when I have Trent, Doherty, James, and Kyle Walker, it upsets me because I've got 4 right backs in the team.
This is where fantasy football meets ultimate OCD. Team or chemistry and stuff, and you get extra points if they're in the right places. That'd be nice.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love, that's what I love most about having Trent and Robertson. It's not just the points every week; it's the fact that I can have a proper right and left back from the same team.
But no, I don't spend time doing that. But I know, yeah, some people do, and they talk about their symmetry of their team.
This surprises me when you purposely put playing players on your bench that you don't spend the same amount of time getting.
That was a one-off last week. I'm also easily led, so maybe I don't know. Yeah, if Mark does it, maybe I'll copy him. But if you're doing it,
I don't think Mark cares about this stuff. I remember Andy being asked about it and being like, "I do not care where the players are in my team." I just cannot look at teams where Trent isn't the right back. It's just too upsetting.
Right. Anything else to say, Nick, before we head off?
No, I feel like we got through some important stuff this week, and not least the positioning of players on your team to help your OCD.
Well worth the 3 minutes at the end. Yeah.
Do you want me to go back to lawns again?
We need some filler quick. Right, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you've enjoyed what you've heard today. Yeah, that's it. Anything else to add, Nick?
No, I am smiling here. Sorry that I haven't got video. Hopefully my internet will improve soon. I'm supposed to be upgraded soon, and then we will be continuing our improvement. But I can't believe we've already done 11 episodes. It's just absolutely flying by.
It is, yeah. And we thought this would be a short one, an hour and 13. It's shortish, but still not under the hour. We'll get there. Great. Okay. Thanks, Nick. See you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much, Lee. Good luck.
Good luck. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.